Welcome to What's Important to You, the podcast where we explore purpose, passion, and the moments that truly matter. I'm James Dean, and each week I sit down with inspiring guests to uncover what drives them, inspires them, and what's important to them. What if the biggest threat to living a meaningful life isn't failure, but complacency? In this episode, we explore the power of intentional living, why consistency matters more than motivation, and how small daily actions can create a lasting impact in every area of your life, from family and fitness to finances, faith, and purpose. Joining me today is entrepreneur, author, speaker, and host of the Kill Complacency podcast, Marty Hofmann. Marty, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, James. This is a privilege.
I'm really looking forward to this. Delighted you're here. Marty, we're going to dive straight in with our first question, which is, what's important to you?
Yeah, I know this is true because I write it a lot, and that's impact. I want my life to have an impact and to affect other people. And there's a verse in scripture. It's talking about when Jesus is sending out the disciples. He says, start in Jerusalem, then Judah, then Samaria, and to the ends of the earth. And it's kind of this, think like a target, like Jerusalem was where they were, and then Judah and Samaria, and that circle, you can't see my hands, but that circle got bigger and bigger and bigger. And that is my goal, is to have impact first in my home, and then in my community, and then in my state, country, world, etc. So I really want to get it right, as close to my people as I can. I don't want to mess that up. But once I get that, I want to have that impact elsewhere. One of my emails I have, that's what my signature is, impacting lives. So that's what I'm all about.
It's a great word, actually, isn't it? Because there's so much in a single word with that word impact.
Yes.
Some people, there could be long phrases or there could be sentences, but it's because just even the sort of the sound of it, the way you say it, the word is one of those, it sounds like it's the way you pronounce it. Has that, that impact. So tell me then, because I love the way you described it about starting small, immediacy of your family and then growing it out wider. Tell me then, I'd love to know, is that something that you've always had? Or is it something that you've kind of developed into, that sort of sense of wanting to make an impact?
I think some of it I've always sort of had. But for sure, as I've gotten older, I've seen the importance of getting things right with my marriage first, and then my kids, and then, growing from there. I've seen too many people get that out of order, and then they, become successful, and they impacted everybody but the people who have mattered the most. And so I think that has certainly come with age. But I think that if I look back upon my life, I've always been somebody that has wanted to impact other people. And I realized early on that my most depressing or discouraging days were my days off, when I wasn't seeking to impact, when it was all about me, if you will. Because I was a youth pastor for a bit, and the church made me take a day off because they said, you got to take care of you. But it was not a meaningful day for me. And so I learned a long time ago that my life is all about impact, and I'm happiest when I'm impacting others. So, but
interesting.
Yeah, I think that the importance of family first has come with age, wisdom.
Yeah, for sure. Then, so obviously, because you opened up there when we were chatting initially, you spoke about scripture, and then you just mentioned a pastor. He said in youth church, was it? So is it so youth pastor? So obviously, religion has played, and plays an important part in your life?
Yes, I was raised in a Christian home. My parents were very influential in my upbringing, and kind of, you get to be independent. You start becoming independent as a teenager, and I started making mistakes. What we all do. But my dad had encouraged me to go to a year of Bible college, and he said, just go get grounded, go hear it from somebody else. And so, James, I would say that was very foundational to my life, because at that 18 to 20-year-old range where a lot of the decisions we make or break our future. I made decisions there that really grounded me toward Christianity. And so, yeah, it's a big part of my life. But I would say a lot of it hinges on that, the seesaw. It was on that decision to get grounded.
Yeah. Again, I can say it's another great word as well, because and people have mentioned it before, that word, because and they get it from different things. So for yourself, it was going through from religion. Other people say maybe it's nature. Other people say it's the universe. But it's a way of feeling, as you say, grounded or connected, or to whether it's oneself or whether it's to the world, or you say to family or to God, or whatever. But it's whatever it is that people are connecting to or finding to, that word of grounding, bringing them, as you say, from either made decisions that could be going negative or positive, but almost accepting the decisions you've made, but then bringing it back to yourself.
Yes.
So it is another really great word, because I think it allows you to kind of go to breathe almost, and kind of go, okay, and now I can move forward again, or move whatever direction you want to go in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now we can live out our most important self, and be all there.
Absolutely. So when you say, going back to the first word you said about impact, and you said you're starting obviously with your family and then your community. How is it then? I'm going to ask you the big question. How do you want to make that impact?
The big impact, or the big. This is big, but I would love to sell a lot of books and be on podcast and just, I guess, almost become a household name where people associate intentional living and consistency in their life with Marty Hofmann. And that's, I wrote a book this last year, and I have goals for that book. And it's kind of hard because I'm super visionary, and I realize you have to build momentum. But yeah, my goals for that book for this year would be 10,000 books sold, which is really big, because it's really big to me. Like, it's mind blowing.
Yeah.
But I know that if I can do that, because my 5-year plan is to try to get 1 million books sold, and so you got to do the small. So yeah, I would love to be a household name associated with people living more intentionally and killing complacency in their life, and living their best version of themselves to do what's most important to them.
Yeah, love it. So because I can see, for people who are only listening and not watching the video, you've got on the cap there, you've got the Kill Complacency, and there as well, because that's the name of your podcast as well.
Yes.
So tell me about, then you can either, whichever you want to talk about first, you can talk about the book or the podcast, or if they come together. But tell us about them, and you said about intentional living and the impact you're trying to have on people. Tell me what you mean by that.
Yeah, so my story, James, is really that I'm just a farm kid from Iowa. Iowa's the middle of the United States, and I hate to say it, but I'm nothing special.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that I am special, so I shouldn't even say that. Yeah, but
I have to jump in there, because it's that thing of, I think it's being able to accept both are true at the same time.
Yes.
That you can be something special, but doesn't necessarily make you more special than anyone else. So I think they're both.
Exactly. And that's the other thing. We put our heroes on pedestals, right? And we elevate them. But really, they put their pants and underwear on just like we do, and they're normal people. So they are normal. Now we've elevated them and whatnot. So that's, I guess, what I mean. Like, I wasn't anything out of the ordinary, and I started building a pretty substantial real estate portfolio. And I realized that if Marty Hofmann from Iowa can do this, then I can teach other people to do this. And that's that whole impact, right? And I can teach other people to do this. So we started a podcast. It was an easy way to get content, but it was also an easy way to get access to people and just try to add value. And kind of guess from that morph the book, like just wanting to go deeper. So.
And what's the name of the book there?
Yeah, it's called Kill Complacency.
Still the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. No, perfect. And so when you said you go back again, the whole thing of intentional living, is that right? Is that the idea
Yes.
of people living intentionally? Again, what's your sort of explanation or interpretation of being intentionally living?
Yeah. And you can't call it that because it's too easy, right? New Year's
Mm,
Eve, we always say, I'm going to be
yeah.
more intentional this year,
Yeah.
but it doesn't do much for you. So for me, there's 7 areas I talk about: faith, family, fitness, finances, future self, friends, and fun. So I want to try to have my life be geared around those things so that I don't get to the end without a family, or I don't get to the end and I'm not fit. Because as
Mm,
we get older, our health is our wealth. And obviously we all want more finances. But we can do all these things too and run over our friends and never have any friends. So that's what my life is about, trying to be intentional in those 7 areas and creating, intention. What I learned from myself, James, is that I could become successful if I just showed up every day consistently and intentionally and did the thing. And that's the message I want to tell other people. Like, we can all do it. We can all live a much better, more complete life. Those things that are important to us, they can be achieved if we show up every day consistently. Like, you're going to do a half Ironman here in a couple weeks, and it's because you've shown up and put in your time. And like, most people can't even comprehend a 5K, let alone a half Ironman. But because you've showed up consistently that you're going to complete it. So
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think and I loved again the way you've split it out in those sort of 7 areas and the way because and it is that thing of with amongst those sort of areas that you listed there, those sort of 7 F's, the sort of where
yes,
the consistency of there going, I love that. But it's finding then within those things. So if we pick on the fitness one, which is a huge one. And when I've talked to people, whether it be on the show or just in general and in various different things I've done over the years, there's an element of people then having the intention to find the thing that they find fun. If we use another one of the words that
mm-hmm,
you mentioned there as well, a lot of them can interweave and interlock and they'll
mm-hmm,
cross over from the different areas. The one thing with fitness, a testament to it, as you're getting older, you need to do it for your own health, to longevity, all those things, but doesn't mean that it can't be fun. So to anyone else, we were chatting before we started the recording. As I said, I'm doing this half Ironman in a few weeks' time. It's my first one for a number of years. I've done a few more before, but I find it fun. Some people would think that's absolutely ludicrous to go out and this is essentially a 70-mile race that's going to take me 7.5 hours. It's going from swimming to cycling to running. People think that's madness. In the same sense that I wouldn't, I played team sports as growing up and that, but it's something that I kind of went away from. I just kind of like, I couldn't deal with the egos anymore after
mm-hmm,
those. That was just the thing. I was like, I can't deal with, that was just my thing. I didn't find it fun anymore. I found it like
mm-hmm.
a chore. In the same way, I wouldn't necessarily be inclined to go to a dance class. It's just, so people think fitness falls into these such small categories and they do it and they hate it and they think the suffering is the thing that's going to be, and it's like, but where's the fun? So,
Yes,
you know what I mean? So coming back to the things you're trying to get people to be intentional on, it's like, well, you can do these things and they can be enjoyable. Why would we do any of those areas of the life that you spoke about? And it's not to say that you won't have hard times or why things won't be difficult,
for sure.
but it doesn't have to be all of it. Does that make
Yes.
sense?
Well, and regarding fitness, like, yeah, not everyone's cut out to be an Ironman,
Mm.
but everybody can move their body,
Yes.
right? And so, yeah, find what brings you joy. Maybe it's getting together with some friends every morning at 5 a.m. and going for a walk, or maybe it's 5
Yes.
p.m. But you can get so much benefits just from a simple walk. So if you have kids, like I did this last fall, we did 100 push. I got boys. We did 100 push-ups every day, and it was fun. Not the push-ups, but it was fun to do it with your boys. And and watch, your 10-year-old, your 12-year-old try to outdo you or push you or whatever.
Yes.
Like find the area of fitness that you enjoy, because then it gets so much easier. I'm like you, James. I do a bit of running, and my daughter thinks I don't have any fun. And she's like, Dad, what do you do for fun? I'm like, well, I run because I sincerely enjoy it. Like you just hit the pavement and nothing else to worry about. But to some people, it's suffering.
Yeah, absolutely. And in some ways, to that point, depending on there is an element of, when I'm doing the long distance stuff, there is an element of suffering in a sense of, but that is kind of almost what you're looking for.
I kind of like it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You're trying to push yourself. You're trying to get into that space of and that's when it's almost starts to become perversely enjoyable, because you're really trying to push yourself on what you're capable of, both your body and your mind. So there is an enjoyment in that. One of the ones the words you mentioned there that I want to make sure we dive into is the finance side of it.
Yes.
Because I think there's that side of, when I've spoken to people before, whether it be on the show or somewhere like in a coaching capacity or just general, there might be cultural differences, but there can be this element of not to talk about money, or, this thing of oh no, if you find the thing you love, money won't be important. There's an element of truth is that we do need the finances behind us. If we want to live a certain way, that they are important. So what's your when you think about intentional, your perspective on the living, where does the finance piece or tips, or what do you tell people about finance?
Well, finance is it's the engine, right? You gotta have some kind of finances to have any sort of a life, but it doesn't have to be that hard. We don't have to stay in our 9-to-5 working minimum wage. There's things we can do to improve our finances. And something I think an easy thing to do is just budget, monitor your finances, find out how much you're spending. And because if you can do that, then you can say, hey, you can reverse engineer it, just like a Ironman race, right? In 6 months from now, I want to have X amount in savings. That means I need to do X, Y, Z. And if somebody will do that, for me, James, I wasn't a runner until later in life, but the compound effect that I got from that was huge. And I would argue the same is true of finances. If people will pay attention to it, the compound effect of savings and budgeting, and it'll become fun. It'll become a game. And I sincerely believe that when we pay attention to that sort of thing, our finances will get better. Job opportunities will come to us because we're looking for it. So that's what I would say. I mean, the easy baby step on that is just pay attention to your finances.
Yeah. And yeah, because I think it's to add to that, because I think the finance thing is, as you said before, it is an important thing, because people can either dismiss it, or they don't want to talk about it, or they get embarrassed about it, whatever it is. And it's that thing of, as you say, it's a great word to say they use, it's the engine, because it will be a driver to potentially all these other things that you want to be able to do in your life. And it's also that thing of, as you said, that whether it be budgeting or planning, because it enables you have to be able to have that thing of, it doesn't mean it's going to happen now. And a lot of the things maybe in the book is, I'm sort of don't want to put words in your mouth, but is there part of what you're trying to get people to do is also about living, so you say living intentionally, but as you say, it's not quick fix. There has to be, it's the
discipline.
Exactly. Discipline and turning up each day, and the cumulative effect of doing these things versus it's just going to change like that, isn't it?
Well, I think that, in line with your show, what's important to you, we find what's important to us when we show up consistently and do the thing. But if we get the quick fix, then we never know. And we're constantly bouncing around trying to find out what we're called for and what we're made for and what's our unique ability. But when in the midst of difficulty, then you find out, I'm actually really good at this, or I really enjoy this. So as much as we like comfort, we need discomfort in our life to identify what's important to us and to live that impactful life.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mentioned a few of the words you said there, they're coming from the book. Anything from any of the other words, whether it be faith or that you kind of would want people to really consider that when you wrote the book or from the podcast of those words that you think it's really impactful? Use your word again.
Well, family's a big one to me because I've seen too many people mess that up, and as a dad, as a mom, we have tremendous influence over our kids. Like nobody else has that much influence until our kids are teenagers, probably.
Yeah.
And so you have at your disposal a stewardship to really impact a future generation. And so family, I think, is huge. And I really think like you got to get your marriage good, not like do work. It's work. I talk about it in my book. Like I don't have a perfect marriage. I wish I did. I don't think anybody does, but we have our struggles, but we work on it. And in the midst of working on it, we move from conflict to oneness. And then my wife and I get to have impact because we've worked through things. And so I think that's your North Star in a sense, is focus on your marriage if you can, and then your kids. Because if I can do nothing else but raise 4, 5, 6, I have 6 kids, but if I can raise 6 kids who are desirous to impact the world, then it will have such a big ripple effect than if I go and try to, get coaching students to do so. Like it's just not going to be the same. So
absolutely. Oh yeah, because you said at the very start that the family is, and it's the point again though. You're saying family is so important to yourself, your wife, and your kids. But as you say though, like everything, all those other elements or those areas in life, it takes effort, work. Again, showing up. It's not going to just happen. There has to be that element of effort. And I think it's also that thing, because I had a gentleman on a few weeks ago. His name was Lee Balcom. He was a marriage coach. He was like a counselor and then a marriage coach and therapist. And his whole thing that he talked about was all about connection. And when it comes to partnerships and marriages, intimate partnerships, it's having the ability to connect and stay connected and whether it be reconnect. But that was the word that he said all the time. And it really sort of, to use your word again, it had an impact on me of how are we making sure in our relationships, our, marriage relationships, intimate relationships, that we are connected. Because if you're disconnected through not talking or being together, or when you're together, you can be together and not be connected. Do you know what I mean? So it's as you said, the reason it reminded me is because you said you have to still put the work in, and you still have to make sure that, especially, I don't have children myself, but it's with everything else that's going on in your life, that how you keep yourself and your partner connected. There's an effort to it.
Yes. Well, and 2 are better than 1. You're much stronger. So if you can get that right, like the amount of influence and impact you can have over other people, because you're 2 now, instead of, because I've done this too, where I'm off on my own and my wife is off on her own, and we're much more vulnerable, and maybe I'm doing something that I know she's not approving of. And maybe that's probably why I'm doing it on my own. But I don't have the strength. I don't have the teamwork. You're going to do this. I imagine you're going to have some kind of support along your journey in a few weeks on your half Ironman, right? You're going to have somebody showing up and asking you how you're doing or whatever. But we need our help. We need help.
Yes. Yeah. No, absolutely. It's the having that. It's the whole thing of having each other's back, I think.
Yes.
And I think it's also one of the things I've learned over probably more recent years, through my wife and myself probably changing jobs and careers and different things, herself and myself, that it's a human thing for ourselves to doubt ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're in the midst of your own thing, so whether it was me doing this podcast or setting up business for myself and things, or my wife in the changing of her career and different jobs she's doing and promotions and things, when you're in it yourself, you're still, can be healthy criticism of yourself or consciously sort of, thinking, is it right? That can edge into the sort of imposter syndrome, thinking you're not good enough and all that sort of stuff. It's in those moments when you're in those self-doubt moments where the other person can be because they, in some ways you could argue, oh, maybe they're not objective because you're married to them, but if they know you better than anyone, really.
Mm-hmm.
So they can be that person that kind of go, either they can tell you a bit more straighter whether it's good or bad or indifferent, and more often than not going, it's good. They can be that person in those moments where you say you need the support, you need the help, that give you that. They can reflect back to you the things that you've done or said, and you can kind of go, oh yeah. You can easily dismiss it yourself. You need that person on the side who
Yes.
is they're not sort of just saying it for the sake of it either. You know what I mean? They're not gonna BS you basically, but they're not gonna then just, if they're really supporting you and you have that connection, they're really gonna let you know when it's good and when you're doing a good job. I think that's where it really is working, when they can recognize when you need that bit more of the support on the side.
Yeah, I have a story for you. I think it was the second marathon I ran. It was in November. It rained the night before. I put on this is my mistake. I put on brand new socks. I'd saved them for race day. And before the race started, I stepped in a puddle. Like,
no,
shoes are wet. And I start running, and those socks, they shrank to my foot. And like mile 7, my feet were burning. And they're burning. It felt like it was going to blister. And I was moving right along. Mile 12, mile 13, I pull over and I look, and I have these size of like a silver dollar blisters on my feet. And when you're halfway done and you have that, like, I was mentally, James, I was toast. And I called my wife. And again, this goes back to what you were saying, because my wife was on board with it. And had I been doing all these runs without her support, I would not have called her. But I called her and I said, hey, I think I'm done. I've got these massive blisters. They're huge. They're going to pop. And I don't think I can do the race. And she said, Marty, I don't care if you have to crawl. You put into training. You're going to do this thing. And I needed that. And I said, you're right. And I honestly, it was wet, so I grabbed these leaves from the ground and I shoved them in my sock because I wanted some padding, and I just took off, and I completed. It was not a great time, but I was upright, and we finished it. The blisters never popped. So, but the point is we need each other. And I needed my wife to tell me at that point, you're not DNFing.
Yes. I'll tell you actually a sort of funny story from my side. I just made me remember as well. I think as well, they know when the type of what to say, when to kind of, you say, be supportive, and when to kind of maybe be a little bit, whether be, I don't know, the word is cheeky, or can kind of like give you a bit of say it in a different way. So it was a few years ago, I did, it was my second full distance Ironman in Cork in Ireland. We live in the Mullingar, so we're in the sort of centre of Ireland, so it's down the south in Cork.
Yeah.
And it was a terrible day. First, it was actually, the swim actually got cancelled because the weather was so bad. There was the water, we couldn't go in the water because there was a small craft warning. It was terrible weather, and it just rained the entire day. So we literally just did a bike and a run. And I was like, we were stood in the rain waiting just to get on the bikes. And so I was like, well, I'm here now, so I've got to go on the bike. And first, there was a two-loop bike course, and I coming towards the end of the loop, I was like, oh, Jesus, I really want to do this. This is just awful. I could just pull in now. But I knew that my wife and my in-laws, my father-in-law, my mother-in-law were going to be at a point cheering me on after where I would pull in. So I kind of had to keep going because I knew they'd be stood in the rain. So I was like, well, okay, well, I knew I had no worries with time. I was going to make cut off and stuff. So I saw them get the bike, and then it was a 4-loop run course. So it was it's a marathon distance. So it's a 42K. So it was a 10K loop each time.
Yeah.
And I think I was like the second loop, or might have been the first, I can't remember, the first or second loop. And my wife saw me, and I was struggling, and I wasn't happy about it. And she just roared at me, "Suck it up, princess." And it was like, it just made me burst out laughing, because totally sort of unpolitically correct, totally, but it was just the dig and the sort of thing that I needed. It was like, come on, get on with this. You're in it now. You're 20K to go. Look what you've already done. It was just like, sometimes you just need to just get on with it. And it was the fact that she knew what I needed at that moment in time. It wasn't a sort of like, and that she was obviously cheering and stuff, but it was just that sort of comment was like, because I'd put myself in that situation. I did, no one's forcing me to do this race or do the training and the work I'd done for it. So it's funny. So like you say, it's knowing they'll know when to say, what to say, and how to say it for that moment in time. So you need those supports, those people, as you say, going back to the family point, you need them in those different moments that are going to be able to give you the right support at the right moment. And as you say, they know you better than anyone. They know what you can take and when you need it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And had both of our wives told us, it's okay, you can stop. Like, think about the regret we'd have. So,
yes,
we both have great spouses who understand that we are finishers, and
yes,
they knew what to say. They didn't want to say, "Oh, let's go home and be comfortable."
Yeah.
No.
Yes. Exactly. No. And that's it. And I think then it's like, I on the same side can know when she needs that same thing, of whether it be in her work, or because again, so she does the racing as well. So we're both doing this race coming up in a month's time. So we both know, as you say, how and when to do it. And I think that's when when you're a kind of elements of one side of it, it's a partnership, it's a relationship, but it's also, there's a team element to it as well.
Yes.
To me, like, it's that at times, there's elements of being teammates and how you support yourself as a teammates in those situations, so it's kind of how there's almost like a spectrum of how you would, types of conversations you have when it comes to those, when it comes to family. And I think going back to the point you said, like you're talking about your wife, but you talk about your boys and what you did last year with them, and the whole thing of getting them to do the push-ups and stuff like that, and challenges and things, because it's that side of getting people to kind of, as you say, push themselves, and then realize, I'd say, like, even when you go back to that example you gave with your boys, because they think about, we're going to do 100 push-ups a day, and I'm sure maybe at the start they're going, I can never do that. But the sense of accomplishment, that's also the point of all of this.
Yes.
It's like, once you actually get to that finish line, or the success of whatever it is, you are grateful that you were pushed. You were, you know what I mean? And that's because you think that you couldn't. And then when you realize that you actually can. And for me, the whole thing of going back to that point we say about fitness as being the part of this conversation, is like, it was one of those things for me for the last sort of good 10, 15 years, when I really sort of took it more seriously from a personal fitness perspective. The impact it had on all those other areas of my life is huge, because once you realize whatever it is you want to get into yourself, when you realize what you're actually capable of, one from your body perspective, but then from the mental perspective, it literally is a game changer, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I think it has ripple effects. I mean, a lot of times when someone comes to me and their life's a mess, I'll tell them to start with fitness.
Yeah.
Because it's easy, it's measurable, and it will give that mental boost in other areas. And the person that can't, run a block, in a few weeks they can run a mile. And the person that I mean, whatever, sit-ups, push-ups, whatever it is. Like there's our bodies can do so much, and it's the ripple effects are almost immediate on that sometimes. So that's a lot of times where we tell people to start with the fitness and then let it have ripple effects in other areas.
Absolutely. So yeah, I was going to ask, so you got the book and you got the podcast. So what other ways do you do? Do you do speaking? What other ways do you help or try and inspire people?
Yeah, we do. I do a little bit of speaking, and I'm into real estate, so I host a big meeting for that once a month. So, and that, it's interesting. I don't know if I had nailed down until preparing for this podcast, like what's important to me.
Yeah, yeah.
And that word impact, I mean, I've used that in all those things with the RIA,
yes,
in the book, my signature on my email. Like that's the word I always come back to. I'm doing these things because I want to have impact.
Yes.
And for me, fitness as well. As my kids got older, I have a couple adult kids. I realized that I couldn't be one of those parents that stood on the sideline. I needed to be one that was setting the example, setting the bar high. And again, it goes back to that word impact. I want to impact my kids because they will impact my grandkids.
Yes. And
therefore, I got to do the hard. So.
Yeah, no, I love that. And yeah, one of the things, because I'd seen, and you mentioned there that you're sort of with real estate.
Yes.
And one of the reasons I just wanted to ask about it, because what I think's important as well for people is, and this is one for myself as well, is we sometimes, I think, and I see people stopping themselves doing something or thinking they can't do something because it's so, they see it so different from the thing that they do, whether it be in work or something else. They almost like, oh, why would, so you're working in real estate. The assumption would be, well, oh, geez, why I'm working in real estate? Why would anyone listen to me about this stuff?
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? We convince ourselves that we're the whole thing of, oh, I better stay in my lane or I better keep to this, versus having, these things are all interconnected, and that instead of quieting that voice as, oh, who am I need to just stay over here. It's like, no, if there's an element of what you could bring that will have a positive impact to someone else, then there's almost, I think there's an element of there's a bit of a duty. You can't keep that to yourself.
Yes.
So I love the fact that you're, if I say day to day, your occupation or the career you've made isn't necessarily what people would associate with someone who's trying to do what you're trying to do. I love the fact that it seems to be so different because it also proves to the point, as you say, like, if you, as you say, where you're from and who you are can build up this real estate portfolio, but you can also run a podcast, write a book. It enables other people to think bigger as well.
Yes. Well, and exactly. And again, James, that's my thesis. Like, we are capable of so much more. We can live the impossible dream by showing up consistently and doing the thing. So whatever is important to your guests that are listening, like, just realize that, I mean, especially with AI tools now, you can reverse engineer a training plan for an Ironman. Well, you can reverse engineer being the guy that writes a 6-digit check to somebody at some point as a gift, like, or whatever. I mean, whatever your most important thing to you is, like, we can all do that. And probably if we go after it, we'll find out that we're setting our sights too low,
Yes.
Because I believe if we show up and consistently do it, like, we will do it, and we'll do it in a quicker time than we expect. So,
we've been talking a lot about the various words you've been using and how I like them so much. I also have to reference the fact of the name of the podcast, the book, and you got it on the baseball cap there, the Kill Complacency.
Yes.
Where did that come from? Where did that idea?
So Kill Complacency. Complacency is the enemy of everything good.
Yeah.
And it all came from a whiteboard. I mean, I was trying to track out when we came up for a podcast, I was trying to track what it was that I did to get to where I was. And I realized it was consistency and intentionality. Well, those aren't good hooks, right? So the opposite of that though is complacency. And so we just called it kill complacency. Like I've seen other people call it complacency kills, but we just wanted to, make the statement, you got to kill it every day. And it's not, it's not one and done. Like I know for you, there's probably days you'd love to skip your workout, but you got to do it. And it's the killing of complacency there. And another word we talk about a lot is drift. And drift is that boiling of that frog nice and slow and you don't realize it. And that's how we get off target from doing what's most important to us is we get comfortable and we start to drift. And we define drift as default results in forgotten time. And you just slowly waste your life and you never do what's most important to you. And you never live that impactful, meaningful life that you could.
Yeah. No, yeah. That word it's actually that word of drifting. And I felt that I was in that, a few years ago, like that sort of, because you say it's such a, when you reflect back on, if you've ever had those moments, you kind of go, Jesus, where did that almost 5 years go? Or where did that 10 years go? When you kind of think, because you just say drifting along real sort of intention or impact, or, it's not, and it's not to say that I was unhappy or anything like that. It wasn't that, but it was just, you kind of go, God, if I had those few years back. Mm-hmm. And so you kind of going to go, so that there's an element of like, I don't want to get in the next few years thinking, I didn't make the most of that again. So that's where that word to me, and it really had that sort of thing of, when I looked back on it, because I was thinking of that. And one of the things that, and I love your opinion on this, one of the things that people say to me when on the show or when I've coached them is they say, I just want to be myself. I go, what the hell does that mean? I just want to be myself. And the best sort of thing I came up with from all the people I spoke to is the description of is that what I say and do is a true reflection on how I think and how I feel. So basically it was the outside reflection on the inside. Because that drifting is like, you don't know. You haven't decided what's really important from the inside, and you're not doing anything on the outside. And so it's like, when you do all the things that you've been talking about, when you kill that complacency, go after the things that are important in those areas of your life, you really are going. So as opposed to, you'll figure it out, you go, I actually am being myself. It's not even a destination anymore, because you're just being. It's not something you're trying to find anymore. It's just because you're showing up. You go, actually, no, this is it. And it's also that thing of, if you're doing stuff to impress other people or for the sake of other people, then you're onto a losing streak. That whole, it's kind of like that whole phrase. Sometimes it works for people, but the whole thing of, I'll show them, that could be a motivation for so much.
Yeah.
You could do it and they couldn't give a shit. Like, so who cares? If you're turning, so there's an element of like, to me, to being yourself is like, actually, if I just do the things that are going to, for you, like they're going to have that impact, then you'll end up being yourself without even realizing it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And drift is the enemy.
Yeah.
Because it's what keeps us from living out our most important
100%.
thing we want to be. And it's what keeps us from impact. And I truly believe like it's the enemy.
Yes.
Because we are capable of so much more. Like I wouldn't be an ultra runner. You wouldn't be an Ironman if we lived in drift. Because
100%.
every day we got to lace up our shoes and defeat it.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. Love it. I have 3 questions that I ask everyone who comes on the show, Marty. So the first one, and we've probably gone through a few, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Is there a quote or a phrase that's important to you?
One I think of a lot is one that was on our refrigerator growing up when I was a kid. And my dad had cut it out of a newspaper. And it just said this. It said, the man who does his best today is hard to beat tomorrow. So I've often thought about that. Like, just do your best today. And maybe there's still somebody better than you, but But eventually you're going to get better and better and better and better. So the man who does his best today is hard to beat tomorrow.
Love that. Because again, doesn't it bring it back to so many things you've been talking about of, say, showing up, doing it, and the intentionality of today? But it's a way of remaining in the present, because it's that we can easily think, as you say, skip today, do it tomorrow, put it on the back burner type thing, versus bringing it back to the now, bringing it into the moment. No, I love that one, because it's because you can only do what's in front of you right in this moment.
Yes.
And what's the whole thing of like where the idea of the name of the show is, hey, what's important to you, came from. There's an Irish psychologist called Jerry Hussey. He did a lot with sports people, sports psychology. And one of his phrases was, when he was dealing with athletes who were getting anxious, his phrase was, what's important now? And he said, win. That word, because he's like, because it brings you right back to this moment. He was like, well, what's important right now?
Yeah.
You know, we're hours away from the start line or whatever it is. So why are you getting anxious now? We're nowhere near that moment. So the phrase you just said there about the man who works hard today, it's like, well, it's about today. Have the plans. Yeah, it's great to have the plans and look forward and stuff. But those, like you said yourself earlier in the show, like, oh, you want to sell 10,000 books this year. That doesn't come from just doing nothing and in 6 months' time check in on see how many books have been sold. It's about selling whatever each day. Exactly. So yeah, no, I love that one. It's a great one for people to remind themselves of what they can do in each day. Love it. Who have been the biggest influences in your life?
You know, my immediate gut reaction is my dad. I might have two here. I would say my dad has a tremendous influence on my life, for sure, way more in the past. But I would say probably more than I realize now is my wife. I just value her advice and her wisdom, and telling me you got to finish the race. Like, I don't know. I didn't call my dad at that point. I wasn't looking for his voice. I was looking for my wife. So
yes,
I would say for sure my dad in the past, but maybe my wife is trumping him at this point.
Yeah, I love that. But what I love about that question as well, when I ask people, because, and I've said this a few times, that word of influence now has kind of changed in more recent times because of the term of influencer. And I think sometimes it's not to say that we can't look for people in the public eye for influence. It's not to say that they can't have that impact on us in a positive way. But I think sometimes if we look closer to home and if we're really almost genuine and honest with ourselves, it's like, actually, you know what? Yeah, because they are the people that know us best.
Yes.
And we see best. And
they love us in our failures.
100%. Absolutely. And I think that you go, okay, yeah. And it's also, they're the ones that are with you. They're the ones that live with you. They're the ones that are going to, when it does, and things inevitably will go wrong, as you say, they're still going to love you in those moments and help you get you going again. And in the moments when it goes right, so I think I think having those influences close to home is such a positive thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Marty, it's been wonderful to chat to you. Really has. And definitely has had an impact on me, this chat. I have one final question for you though, which is, what's important for your future?
I think a word comes to my mind is integrity. If I can live with integrity, I think my future will be secure. So if I were to put it in a word, I would say integrity. Showing up consistently, even when no one's looking, doing the finance thing, the friends thing, the family thing, fitness, like living with integrity, I think will have the greatest effect on my life than anything else. So.
Yeah, no, there's another great word to finish on, because it is that, because I think as well with integrity, it's having that integrity with yourself, because it can be easier with another person because there's an impact on them, but having it and holding yourself accountable, and having
doing
that
what you said you would do.
Doing what you said you're going to do. Exactly. It's like, because as you say it, and it's when when no one's when there's those moments when no one is watching you, when no one is cheering you on, or there's going to be those moments when you have to have it yourself. So yeah, it's a brilliant word to finish on. Marty, thank you again once so much again for chatting to
Yes.
me. Really enjoyed the
Yes,
conversation.
it's been a pleasure.
Thank you. No, absolutely. I want to make sure people have the opportunity and continue to have the opportunity to be impacted by yourself. We'll make sure all links are in the show notes for
Okay.
this. But if you want to give a shout out now of where people can find and follow you online.
Yeah, if they go to killcomplacency.com, they can get some resources from the book. They can find out about the book, the podcast, about me. So killcomplacency.com, that's the easiest place to go to. You can Google
Awesome.
me otherwise and
Yeah.
find all kinds of things. There's lots of articles, but
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure they say that link. It's in the show notes. Make sure you check out Marty, his podcast, and obviously his book. And Marty, once again, thank you so much for chatting to me today.
Yeah, thank you, James.
Thanks for listening to What's Important to You. If you enjoyed this episode, follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if it resonated, share it with someone who might need it too. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment or ask a question, and let's keep the conversation going. I'm James Dean, and I'll be back soon with another real conversation to help you reconnect with what truly matters. Until then, take care and stay curious.